Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Real Talk podcast. I am your host, Mia, and as always, I am here with my co host, Jake. How are you doing today, Jake?
Honestly, really good. Had a great coffee this morning, so I am fully ready.
See, that is all it takes with him. One good coffee, and he is a completely different human being. Okay, everyone, today we are diving into something that affects every single relationship, but almost nobody talks about openly, and that is money. Money in relationships. The conversations couples avoid, the fights that keep coming back, the awkward silence when the bill arrives, all of it.
And just to be clear up front, we are not financial advisors. Please do not come to us for investment advice.
Absolutely not. We are just two people who have seen this go wrong enough times to know it's worth talking about. So let's get into it. Okay, Jake, first question. Why is money so difficult to talk about in relationships? Like, genuinely, we can talk about feelings, about family drama, about really painful personal stuff, but the moment money comes up, people just freeze. Why do you think that is?
Okay, so I think it's because money is never just money. On the surface, it looks like a practical thing, numbers, accounts, expenses. But underneath all of that, it carries so much personal weight. How much you earn, how you spend, whether you save or not, all of that feels like a direct reflection of who you are as a person. So when your partner brings up something about money, it doesn't feel like a conversation about finances. It feels like a judgment of who you are.
Oh, okay. So it's never really about the money at all.
Exactly. It's about what the money represents. And until couples understand that, every money conversation is going to feel like an attack, even when it really isn't meant that way.
That makes so much sense. And I think that's why people shut down instead of engaging, because engaging feels like defending yourself as a person, not just defending a purchase.
Right. And once you're in defensive mode, the conversation is basically over before it even started.
Okay, real question before we go further. Have you ever personally had a money fight in a relationship?
Yes. More than once, if I'm being completely honest.
Okay, good, because same. And I feel like everyone has, but nobody admits it.
Nobody admits it because it feels embarrassing, like you're supposed to be a functioning adult. And here you are, arguing about who spent $12 on coffee.
Oh my God, the coffee argument, that is so real. It's never really about the coffee, is it?
Never, never about the coffee.
Okay, so let's talk about why that keeps happening. The earning gap. One person makes significantly more than the other. I've seen this dynamic get really messy really fast. What do you think actually happens emotionally when that gap exists?
So what happens is this invisible power imbalance starts forming, and nobody plans it, nobody wants it. It just happens naturally. The person earning more starts making more financial decisions, and the person earning less slowly starts feeling like they have less of a voice, less control. And over time, that can turn into feeling less worthy in the relationship altogether.
And the guilt, oh my goodness, the guilt that the lower earning person feels. Like they start second guessing every small purchase, thinking, do I even have the right to buy this? And it's such a lonely feeling because they might not even tell their partner they feel that way.
And that's the dangerous part, because the guilt sits there silently and slowly chips away at someone's confidence. And the partner who earns more might have absolutely no idea it's happening, because from where they're standing, everything looks completely fine.
So, what actually helps in that situation? What does a couple actually do?
Honest conversation before it ever gets to resentment. Sit down together and decide how money works in your relationship. 50-50, proportional to income, split by expenses. There is no one right answer, but there has to be an answer that both people genuinely feel good about. Not just agree to, actually feel good about.
Because there's a big difference between agreeing to something and genuinely being okay with it.
Huge difference. And that difference shows up 6 months later in an argument you didn't see coming.
And suddenly you're fighting about something that has nothing to do with what you're actually fighting about.
Exactly. Classic.
Okay, this next one I really want your take on. Joint finances versus keeping everything completely separate. Some couples merge everything, some keep it completely individual, some do a hybrid. What do you think is the healthiest approach?
Okay, so I'm genuinely suspicious of anyone who tells you there's one right answer to this, because I don't think there is. What I do think is that the mistake most couples make isn't which system they choose, it's choosing a system without ever having a real conversation about what it means to each of them.
Ooh, say more about that.
So, one person might feel that keeping finances separate means independence, means they're still their own person inside the relationship. But their partner might experience the exact same thing as emotional distance, like we're not really building something together. And if neither person has ever said that out loud, those feelings just sit there, creating quiet friction that neither person can quite explain.
So it's less about the actual system and more about whether both people understand why they're doing it that way.
The system can be anything as long as both people actually chose it together, consciously, and know what it means to each other.
That's actually really mature advice, Jake. I'm genuinely impressed.
Don't sound so surprised.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I want to talk about something that happens way more than people admit. Secret spending, hidden purchases, maybe even a separate account the other person doesn't know exists. Is that always a red flag?
Not always. Sometimes it's genuine small. Someone buys something they know their partner will roll their eyes at, so they quietly don't mention it. That's probably fine. But when it becomes a pattern, when there are hidden accounts, when significant money is moving around without transparency, that stops being about money. That's about trust.
And I think financial control is something people don't talk about enough. Like one partner controlling all the money, questioning every single purchase, making the other person feel like they need permission to spend anything. That's not being financially responsible. That's actually a form of emotional abuse.
And it starts so subtle. It begins as, let's be careful with money, let's be smart, which sounds completely reasonable. And then gradually it becomes, you should check with me before you buy anything. And by the time someone realizes what's actually happened, they're already financially dependent and feel completely stuck.
That's really heavy and so important for people to hear.
Know the difference between a partner who's financially careful and a partner who uses money to control you. Those are very different things.
Okay, let's switch to something a little lighter, but still really real. The classic saver versus spender situation. One person budgets everything, tracks every expense. The other person lives in the moment and spends freely. How do two completely opposite people actually make that work?
Okay, so speaking from experience here, it's absolutely possible, but it requires a lot of patience on both sides because the saver looks at the spender and thinks irresponsible, doesn't care about the future, and the spender looks at the saver and thinks anxious, controlling, no fun, and both people feel completely judged and misunderstood.
Which just makes the whole conversation defensive before it even starts.
Right. So what actually shifts things is understanding where each person's money habits come from, because it almost always goes back to childhood. If someone grew up where money was always tight, they became a saver. That's a survival response. And if someone watched their parents work hard their whole lives and never enjoy any of it, of course, spending feels like living to them. When you understand the root, you stop seeing it as a flaw and start seeing it as a story.
And when you see it as a story, you have so much more patience with it.
Exactly. And practically speaking, have shared financial goals, something you're both working toward together, a house, a holiday, an emergency fund. Because when you have a shared goal, the conversation shifts from why did you spend that to are we still on track for what we both want? Completely different energy.
From accusation to teamwork.
From accusation to teamwork, yes.
Okay, I want to touch on something that doesn't get talked about enough, self-worth and money, because I've noticed a lot of people tie their value in a relationship directly to what they contribute financially. Like, if they lose a job or go through a rough patch, they start feeling like they're a lesser partner, like they're a burden. That's such a painful place to be. What do you think happens there?
Yeah, this one is really real, and I think it's especially hard for people who grew up being told their value is connected to their productivity or earning ability. Because when that financial contribution drops, even temporarily, it feels like their whole identity in the relationship drops with it. And the partner might have absolutely no idea it's happening because from where they're standing, everything looks completely fine.
So, what does the person going through that rough patch actually need to do?
Talk about it. I know that sounds simple, but it's genuinely the hardest thing. Say out loud, I'm struggling right now. I feel like I'm not contributing enough, and I'm scared that's affecting how you see me. Because most of the time, the partner's response to that honesty completely dismantles the fear.
Vulnerability over assumption.
Always.
Okay, last question, and I think this is the most practical one. When should money conversations actually start in a relationship? First date feels way too early, but waiting until you are moving in together feels too late. Where is the sweet spot?
Definitely not first date. Nobody wants to pull out a credit score over dinner on the first date.
Oh, please, imagine that. Hi, nice to meet you. Here's my debt history.
Exactly. That is the last date right there. But when a relationship starts getting serious a few months in, when you can actually see this is going somewhere, that is when financial compatibility needs to start coming up naturally. Not as a formal interview, just honest conversation. What are your goals? Are you a saver or a spender? Do you have debt? What does your financial future look like? It does not have to be heavy. It's just getting to know each other at a deeper level.
And before any big life decision together, moving in, getting engaged, combining anything, that is when it needs to get really specific.
Because debt, financial habits, money history, all of that is walking into the relationship whether you talk about it or not. You can either know about it and navigate it together, or find out later when there's a lot more at stake.
The awkward money conversation early is so much cheaper than the problems it prevents later.
In every single sense of the word, cheaper.
Okay, that is a perfect place to wrap up today's episode. Jake, this conversation went so many places I was not expecting, and I genuinely loved every bit of it.
Same. I feel like we can honestly keep going for another hour.
We really could, but we'll save some for part two. Okay, everyone, the big takeaway from today. Money is never just money in a relationship. It's identity, it's trust, it's history, it's the future you're trying to build together. And the only way to make it work is to actually talk about it, honestly and without judgment.
Talk early, talk often, and create a space where your partner feels safe enough to be honest about where they're at, because that safety is everything.
If today's episode resonated with you, please share it with your partner or someone in your life who needs to hear this. And drop a comment. We genuinely read every single one and love hearing your stories.
Take care of yourselves, everyone. See you in the next one.
Bye, everyone.